Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Get to Know Your Autodesk Account. We hope here at Digital Drafting Systems, we hope you are all well and safe and taking care of your health while you keep busy. Before we jump into the webinar, we would like to go into some logistics. Obviously, the lines are going to be muted so that we can hear the presenter well. Please send us your questions via the chat box so that we can answer the questions as we go or at the end. This webcast will be recorded for future viewing, so you don't need to write any notes or anything. Just pay attention. At the end, you will have the, probably next day, you will have the recorded version. Gray boxes with red borders are covering sensitive information, so pay attention. If you have any questions, you can also, as always, call us at our phone number 305-445-6480 anytime, or you can email us at info@ddscad.com. No more chatting, okay? Without any more delays, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Alan Birmaher, our AEC Technical Specialist Manager and Customer Success Manager. Alan, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Raquel. Hi, everybody. As Raquel mentioned, my name is Alan Birmaher, and I wear many hats here, but foremost, Customer Success Manager and AEC Technical Manager here at DDS. So here are the topics that we're going to be covering today, starting with the transition to name user. I'm just going to speak briefly about that. That may be some terminology that some of you may have heard. There's been a lot of talk about that recently. Then we're going to go into the actual Autodesk Account tour, and we're going to cover every section of the Autodesk Account to give you guys a really good overview of the entire system. So we will jump right in. So as far as the transition to name user, basically what that means is that Autodesk is actually going to be retiring plans based on serial numbers and launching new plans based on people. And the new plans will be delivering many different benefits now and in the future. Now, for those customers on multi-user subscriptions, we wanted to let you guys know that these plans will be retired by Autodesk on August 7th, 2021. So please, know that we're here to help you with that transition, but something to keep in mind, and please reach out and speak to your sales representatives about that, as they will bring that up to you in the future as well. So I did want to mention some of those benefits of this named user system. And so those are dedicated access for all employees, whether you need it at home or in the office, but you can sign in and be working wherever you need to be. New ways to optimize licensing costs, and so that is basically the new named plans will allow you to have visibility to your usage data, allowing you to make smarter investment decisions. Plans for individuals, teams, and enterprises with dedicated or flexible software access, depending on how your company works. So a perfect setting for every type of group. And you will no longer have to manage network servers or track anonymous serial numbers, which for anybody who's tried to administrate licenses, you know how much of a nightmare that can be, trying to figure out who has what serial number and where everything is. Okay, so that's something to look out for in the near future. And without further ado, let's get into the actual account tour. So we're starting here with our login. This is where we go to log in to our Autodesk account. The website is manage.autodesk.com. And when you arrive there, you will actually be greeted with a sign-in dialog box where you'll put in your email and your password. Something to note here, which we get asked quite a bit, is if you forget your password. We know we have a lot of people forgetting passwords. Happens to all of us. Once you put in that email and you say next, you'll have this forgot button on the right side. And that's a good thing to know where this is, because that will allow you to trigger that forgot password email. Okay. Once we log in, we end up at our basically home page. It's got some basic information, recently added or updated products. You do have another account video that goes through the account here as well, so that's another good reference for you to check into later on if you need it. Okay. So first, we're going to jump into this accounts and services section. And so once we jump in there, products and services section. And once we jump in there, we're going to end up in this all products and services area. Now here you can see the full list of products that you as the administrator have, the ability to assign to other users, as well as if you are looking at this from a user perspective, you'll see any products that are assigned to you. Now you'll see individual products towards the bottom, but you'll also see here in this example some Aec collections. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, the collections are basically bundles of products that do include other products inside of them. So in this case, we're going to go in as if we were looking at one of these collections so that we can see what the product lists look like. So here's your list of products. And in this example, we've expanded out the AutoCAD product. You can see here the various versions that you have access to, the platforms that you have access to, in this case, Mac and Windows, and the license type, and then various other basic information. So for each of these products, we'll be able to go in and view the downloads, and we'll see a pop-up that looks something like this. Now, this is where you're actually going to be going to download the product itself that you will then be running on your computer. Now, as you can see, because AutoCAD does have a Mac version, you do have the option of AutoCAD and AutoCAD for Mac, and then you can select your preferred version, platform, and language, and then you're given various options in terms of downloading the program. Now here at DDS, our best practice that we tend to follow is to use this browser download here at the bottom. And though that may be a little bit slower, it tends to be the most reliable, stable, and complete form of installation. And so that's what we always recommend. We're not going to be getting into the download and installation process today, but we do have a webinar a week from today that's going to cover those things, and we'll be giving you guys a little bit more information on that towards the end. So this is something that you'll see for any of the license types, whether they be multi-user or single user, as you still, you'll have your download access. Now, one thing I did want to call to your attention is for those of you who have multi-user licenses, if you click on this activation tab, you're going to see, first of all, your serial number and product key, which, as Raquel mentioned, whenever you see these gray boxes with red borders, I'm just covering, sensitive information. So you will, instead of seeing that, see a serial number and a product key. And so in order to actually generate that network license file, you'll go in here, click on Generate Network License File. And once you click on that, select your server configuration, you'll put in your server name, information, and add the products that you'd like to add in there. And you'll generate that license file and be able to download as well as email that to yourself or whoever sets up your licensing. Okay, so that's just a brief touch on the network licensing. Won't apply more than likely to many of you, but for those that are involved in multi-user licenses. So next, we're going to jump into our product updates section. Now, the product updates section, as you see here, I've maximized the first one so we can kind of get an idea of what goes underneath. But you can see the product that this update has to do with, the status of the update, the version, the type, size, and the update ID as well. And so most of these updates can actually be found through your Autodesk desktop app, which is installed by default, basically when you install any of the newer Autodesk software. And again, that's something that we're going to cover in the webinar next week, how to run those updates. But just so you can see, if you ever have an update that you need to run for whatever reason that you're not seeing on the desktop app, this product update section is where you can come in and manually download those updates to run. Okay. The next section we're going to look at is deployments. And in the deployment section, for those of you who maybe have a little bit, larger groups who don't want to go through the process of installing individual products on multiple computers, you can actually create a deployment that includes multiple products that already has some sort of configuration for multi-user license for the server location or for a certain serial number, something like that. And you can actually create those deployments here, download them, and deploy them on the individual PCs for your users most easily, without having to go in and download a bunch of different programs, install a bunch of different programs individually. It's a very powerful tool. Okay. And then the next thing that we'll see here on this list under products and services is our trials. Now, if you don't have any trials running or pending, you may not even see this, this title over here, but I have a Forge trial running at the moment. And so we see here the amount of days left on the trial, the amount of cloud credits that I've used, and whatever other information would be pertinent to the trials that you are actually running. Okay. All right. So next thing we're going to move to is what's called user management. And this is probably one of the areas that we work in most from a support standpoint, because this is where, as an administrator, you'll actually go to assign the licenses that you purchase to your users. So your user list will look something like this. Again, I'm covering names and email addresses here, as well as the team title on the top, just for privacy's sake. But you'll basically have your list of users, their name and email will be listed, as well as their role and their status, whether it be inactive or active. So for example, we'll go ahead and click on this first user. And so we will see, again, user's name. We will have the option right there where it says change role to actually assign this user as a secondary administrator to be able to also administrate licenses, or even as the primary administrator if we'd like to give up that primary administrative role to that user. Beyond that, we'll see their email, their Autodesk ID. And another question actually that I get often is regarding the Autodesk ID. You know, when you're running one of the Autodesk programs, whether it be Revit, AutoCAD, any of those, you'll see if you're signed in on the top right-hand side of the screen an Autodesk ID. Now, sometimes this is a string of letters and characters, sometimes including your first name, sometimes your last name, and usually some other random letters and numbers. This is not something to worry about. There's not really a way to change that at the moment. But you don't really have to worry about that because you're always actually going to be using your email to sign in. So that's something to keep in mind. Additionally, we can see down below that this user actually has an AEC collection assigned to them, and we can unassign it on the right-hand side. And then below, we see that this account also has some AutoCAD licenses, but there's no seats available, and as a result, we're not able to assign any of those seats here. Okay. Additionally, I did want to mention, if you one of the things that's kind of great about this new user license model is that if you have a user that's working for the company, they're doing work, and they eventually leave the company for whatever reason, you're actually able to come in here, unassign that license from them, and then remove that user without worrying that that user may take that serial number with them, maybe using it elsewhere. Something like that. And again, you can always track where those licenses are and who has them, which is great. So the next way we can assign and unassign products is in this by product section on the left side here. And so if we click in here, we'll see again our two products, which are the AEC Collection and the AutoCAD. And we see that there is 1 of 13 seats available for the AEC Collections, and as we saw before, no seats available of AutoCAD. Okay. And so let's say we click in here into our AEC Collections. And so again, we see 1 seat available of 13 total. We see our list of currently assigned users, 12 of which there are. And we have the ability here to either unassign by just clicking the unassign button on the right next to that user, or to assign a user directly from here by clicking on that assign users button. Now, keep in mind that to assign a user here, you do actually have to go back to that by user section and create that user there first. Okay. And so this leaves us with another user management type section, which many of you may not even see. You'll only see this if you have still licenses that are serial number associated. And there are some single user seats that are still treated this way, multi-user seats as well. But basically, you'll see a similar list with your users. Here I have the first user opened up, so you can see what you see underneath. You can see the contract number associated, the email address associated. And towards the right side, you'll see the number of products and services, and then the number of benefits assigned to those users. Now, in this case, to actually edit what that user has access to, we'll actually click on this Edit Access button on the right side, and we'll get this pop-up. And so here you'll actually see on the right side, there's these assign checkboxes. And if you open each of these products, you can assign various services that belong to each of these products, as well as the actual products themselves, and include all those services. And basically, you'll just check that box and click Save at the bottom, and that's how you do it on this side of things. Okay. Again, most of you won't see the classic user management page because most of you have already been transitioned to that sign-in type scenario, but it's something good to know for those of you who do see this. Okay. And so that basically concludes that user management section. So the next section we're going to go into now is what's called billing and orders. And this is where your contracts live. Okay. Again, from an administrative standpoint, you may have more contracts than just one. In this case, we're only seeing one. You're going to see here the names of the products within that contract. You're going to see the term or the type of contract, in this case, a 3-year subscription. You're going to see an expiration date. And then on the left side, what we're covering here is the actual contract number. Okay. And so if we click in to that specific contract, we're going to see all the information about that contract. So again, contract number on the top, start and end dates of that contract, contract manager information, company information, and then below you'll have all of your products that are listed in that contract. For each product, if you open up the flyout like I did on this first 3ds Max, you'll see not only the number of seats and the type of license, in this case multi-user, but you'll also see the start and end dates of the contract, or of that product within the contract, I should say, the serial number and product key, the support type that is listed for it, as well as the reseller. In this case, that's us, Digital Drafting Systems. And we can see that that status of active at the moment. Okay. And so next, we're going to actually jump over into the reporting and seat usage specifically section. And so here, basically what this section is intended to do is really give you some visibility into how your products are being used, who's using them, how often they're being used. And so in this case, I pulled this off the Autodesk website. This has more products, so you can actually really see what's going on. So we have this AutoCAD LT up here listed with 23 users, AutoCAD including specialized tool sets with 18 users, and so on. As you go down this list, you see with less and less users. Now on the left side, you can also see how many total users you've had in the last 3 months, how many products have been used in the past 3 months, and then how many total seats are being used currently. Okay. Again, this can actually be the length or the term that is shown here can actually be changed with this drop down on the top right, illustrating the last 3 months currently, but we can show other periods of time as well. And we can actually export this as a CSV so that you can take this and examine this data off of this website. Okay. The next section would be the cloud services usage section. And basically here, again, similar situation, you'll see your various contracts that you might have access to. You'll see what kind of cloud credits are associated with each contract. In this case, none, okay? If we did see that there was cloud services associated, it would show you how many you have and how many have been used. And then there's actually another section which you can see at the bottom left here, cloud services usage by user. And in those cases where you have users using cloud services individually, you are actually able to see those breakdowns by users instead of like this, okay? So again, very quick run through of what you can expect to see in the Autodesk account. And basically, that's pretty much it. Without further ado, we'll jump over to some questions and see if Raquel has seen any questions in the chat box while we've been going.
All right. Thank you so much for that presentation, Alan. It very specific, very detailed. Thank you so much. The Autodesk account has changed a lot. Wow. All right. So yeah, I do see some questions here. Give me one moment. Let me see. Okay. So the first one is, what is the difference between single and multi-user licenses?
Okay. So single user licenses, basically, as I mentioned, are going to be assigned to one specific user, associated usually by the email address. And so those users, when they log in on a computer, open their Autodesk product for the first time, they'll be prompted to sign in with that username and password. So again, no need for a serial number, no need for setting up a connection to a server, nothing like that. It's all connected through the cloud. Okay. And then multi-user licenses are basically floating licenses that are usually stored on a company server, something like that. And if you're on that network, those licenses basically can be shared by the users in that company. So you have one network license, you have 2 users. Each of those users can have access to that license as long as they're not using it simultaneously. As I mentioned before, though, something to please keep in mind is that multi-user licenses are actually on their way out. There is a trade-in promotion that Autodesk will be offering for those, and that's something that you should definitely speak to your sales reps about if you do currently have multi-user licenses, so they can catch you up to speed on that. But I do believe that that switch will be taking place in August of next year, so you have about a year from now before that's completely phased out. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, August 7 next year, right? August 7, 2021, it will be totally discontinued. The trading promotion started this year already on August 7, but it's going to be going on at the renewal time of each of you guys. So when your contract comes up for renewal, that is when the trading is at stake. So if there's a good things happening there. So just check, like Alan said, check with your sales representatives and get more details if you are in those cases. Yeah, thank you, Alan. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, can a user have more than one product assigned to them? That's another question.
Okay. Yeah, so absolutely. As you saw in some of those slides there, that was the administrative perspective. But if a user had more than one product assigned to them, that would not be a problem. You can have an AutoCAD and a Revit, for example, both individually assigned. And when you sign in on those products on your PC, those will each license with that license. So absolutely, you can have pretty much as many products as you want assigned to your users.
Excellent. Okay. The next one is, can a user use their same username to log in on more than one computer?
Okay, so this is actually a question we get quite often, so I'm actually glad somebody brought that up. So yes, again, this is the basic idea behind these licenses is that they are for one single user, but remember that one single user may have a computer at work, may have a computer at home, may have a laptop to travel with. And so you can actually sign in with that same email address and password to activate on up to 3 computers, but the only caveat is that you can't be using those computers simultaneously for Autodesk products at least. So if you're working from home, you can be working on your home computer, but you can't also be opening Autodesk on your work computer, right? So it's only in one location at a time, but that same user can have up to 3 computers that their license is working on at one time, right?
Sounds great. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question. Why is 2018 the oldest software I see when I look into my Autodesk account, even though I used to see older versions before?
Okay. Yeah. So basically with the subscriptions, the way it works, with the subscription, you basically have access to the current version, which in this case is 2021 as of now, and 3 versions prior. So for those of you with subscriptions, if you go look in your Autodesk account, you should see downloads for 2018, 2019, 2020, and 21. That shift happened in around March for the most part. That's when the 2021 software started coming out. Before that time, you would have seen 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, for example. And when the new software comes out, 2022, hopefully, we'll see 22, 21, 20, and 19. It's just current version and 3 prior is technically what's included in that subscription plan. Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you. Another question. Do I use the Autodesk account only for subscriptions or also for my own licenses, perpetuals?
So it depends on the perpetual licenses. So definitely for subscriptions. For perpetual licenses, if they're perpetual licenses that are still on current maintenance, then absolutely they will show up in the Autodesk account. That being said, as far as assigning licenses, things like that, it kind of depends on your contract. Some contracts, even maintenance have been moved over to the kind of sign-in way of thinking, while others have not. So that's something that if you have a concern about that, definitely reach out to us and we can tell you more specifically for your account and for your specific contract what the case is.
Yeah, because it's a transition, sometimes that happens, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. I don't see any more questions. Guys, this is the last chance. If you have any other questions, just tell us right now. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up. Alan, thank you so much for a great presentation. Thank you for answering the questions. Guys, thank you for asking your questions and attending today. We are looking forward to have you on our next webinar, which is going to be on August 18, which is 1 week exactly from today. That is going to be a very interesting webinar. It's going to be getting up and running with your Autodesk software. So everything about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, downloads, installation, activations, all of that, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we're looking forward to have you, and not only you, just tell your colleagues that if they need to have that information, they are welcome here. Our blog is live. You can check out all our postings at that link there in the screen. If you have any questions, as usual, please email at info@ddscad.com, or you can call us at our phone number or contact your sales representative. And for more information on our webinar a week from today, you can just go to ddscad.com, click on events, and there you go. You will have it right there. And you can just register right away so you don't forget. All right. Thank you, Alan, for a great presentation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Everybody, have a good afternoon.